Alright guys, how's it going? Been a while. This is just going to be an update on recent gaming, pickups, the joys of VR is what I'm all about still. So yeah, some physical pickups for PSVR2, pretty excited about that. There could have been more, because this keeps happening, where games are getting a delayed physical release on PSVR2, like special editions, whatever, limited runs, this kind of thing. But they're not announced at launch. And because I like to support developers, I often buy games at or near launch if I think I'm going to enjoy them, obviously. And then, yeah, several months down the line, lo and behold, it comes out on disc. I ain't buying it twice, so I've missed out on a few games that I would have preferred to have on disc. This is a tale as old as time. It's been going on for this whole generation. Did it happen? It didn't happen quite so much on PSVR 1. The physical releases on PSVR 1 usually happened at launch, or at least you'd hear about it at launch. But it's happening more often now, where these get these sort of unannounced, surprise, delayed releases. But there was a couple that I managed to get on disc, so we'll talk about them. But first, a different game that I have been playing recently that I also have on disc is Vertigo 2. If you don't know about this game, it's very cool, very indie, made by essentially one guy who was on the Half-Life team. So he's got a good pedigree. I forget his name now, but he's basically made this game all by himself. It's very inventive, very varied, very crazy. So it's random enemies, like really random enemies. But yeah, it's a full length first person shooter basically, with decent sort of adventure elements to it. You also get, I mean, look at this. You get stickers, all kinds of stuff. A full colour manual. Look at this. How often do you see that? I'm not flicking through it very well, but Jesus, a full colour manual, fantastic. Nostalgia for times when you actually used to own your games. Do you remember that? That was good, wasn't it? Yeah, but Vertigo 2 is really fun. It does have a little bit of performance issues. I'm playing on the PS5 Pro, and it does run a bit smoother on there. But you do get the occasional frame drop, and the resolution isn't fantastic, but it's not bad. Fairly simplistic textures, but overall, a brilliant game. Really fun weapons. There's a challenge to it, absolutely. It doesn't hold your hand, in terms of figuring out where to go and what to do. It's not all served on a plate for you, which is nice. You got to explore and discover things a little bit. But really fun, yeah. I don't know how far I am off the end, but I've got a good amount of hours on it. Yeah, Vertigo 2, can recommend that definitely. Just be aware that it's sort of lower budget. Well, in compared to your major releases, but it is a really fun, formidable game. So I'll just talk about the other two physical pickups that I got as well. So the first one is iRobots. This is the Jeff Minter game, of course. Coding legend that brought us Tempest 2000, and on PSVR and PSVR 2, he's released a few sort of similar, sort of retro-looking, incredibly psychedelic, just assault on the senses kind of games, and this is no different. Very simplistic game. You're basically jumping over these blocks, trying to convert them all to the other colour or whatever. But you also have to make sure you're paying attention to the background, because there's this big floating eye, and if that's open when you jump, it'll zap you. So you sort of, as well as being distracted by these fireworks of retro pixels, you're watching your little character and where you're controlling that, but you also have to watch the eye. So it's quite fun, yeah. Simple, obviously, retro styly. But I've had quite a bit of fun with it so far. Not played a huge amount, but another cool thing about this game is the special stages are basically Polybius. It feels very similar to Polybius, sort of a simpler, stripped down version. But that's what the special stages are in here. And of course, it's the most popular Jeff Minter VR game, and it's what everybody would like everybody would like that to come to PSVR2. Whether it's worth the work for him to do that or not, we don't know. It's not happened yet anyway. But if you want a little teaser, a little taste of Polybius on PSVR2, then this is how you're going to get it. In the special stages on iRobot. I'm sure you can get this. I'm sure it goes on sale on the store digitally. But I'd not got around to buying it, so I saw that Limited Run Games were doing this. Is it Limited Runs? I think it's Limited Run, isn't it? Strictly Limited. Is that the same thing? Strictly Limited. It has German branding on it, although English text in the body of the text. But yeah, so it was, I paid more for it than you really want to be paying for this type of game. It's about 25 quid, I believe. But there was only 700 copies left. I saw this notification pop up and it said, only 700 copies left. So of course that piqued my interest and I thought, oh, all right then, all right. In the small print, we only made 750 copies, but no, yeah, it's all right, it's cool. Nice to have in your collection. And that also came with a full colour manual. So, there's a few retro enthusiast developers still keeping the torch aglow. So yeah, iRobot, pretty cool. The last physical pickup I've got this month for PSVR2 is Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic. Now this doesn't have VR branding on it because this physical release came out. Actually, did this come out? I have a feeling this came out previously, I'm not sure. It doesn't have VR branding on it, but it does have a free VR patch available. And obviously you can run it from the physical version of this game. So it's a free patch for the VR mode, which obviously must mean that Sony subsidised that. So it's another example of Sony just quietly funding awesome VR content without taking any credit for it. One of the criticisms that comes up sometimes with Sony is, oh, there's no more VR first party games. Sony have forgotten about PSVR2. They're not funding any games, blah, 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 blah. Of course it's not true. This is the first in a long line of major third-party games that Sony has put money into to keep the headset running. And it seems to just, maybe it's more economically viable to throw a bit of money at a developer and say, yeah, add VR mode to this game that you've already built, and we'll pay for that, and then give the patch away for free, which is going to be a lot cheaper overall than Sony sort of dedicating resources to building built from the ground up games for VR at a high standard, of course, the standard you would expect from a Sony first party title. That's just not going to return your investment. And so I guess they're trying, it seems they're being realistic about the sort of sustainability of the PSVR2 and where the market is currently, the size of the market you're selling to, the return on investment that is possible. So in my opinion, it's like I imagine there's a few sort of VR evangelists still within Sony that's trying to sort of sell the idea of making sure we keep PSVR2 going. And to do that, they need to balance the books, or at least they need to not go too far into the red, to sort of make the purse string holders start worrying and pull support. So maybe that's what's going on. They're trying to be more sensible, sustainable, keep themselves in the game whilst not bankrupting the VR division. But yeah, so you've had Secret of the Mimic now. It's got fantastic reviews. I've not played it yet, just I'm saving it for a bit. Apparently they are listening to the community, and there's been one or two small issues that people have picked up on that they're already saying they're going to address. So I'll probably wait a little bit longer and see what they do, just to sort of just tie those loose ends up. But no, it's getting fantastic reviews. Performance is great. Apparently resolution and the graphics in general fantastic. Really fun game, like a more fleshed out sort of a full length game in this universe, whereas the two previous ones we got on VR, of course, were sort of mini games. Very cool, sort of fun, sort of scary jump scares, tied to these sort of mini games, but that was like a room scale game where you sort of stationed in one location and then you just do these little mini games, whereas this is a full length game where you sort of go exploring through levels, and so I'm sure I'm gonna have a lot of fun with this. But goddamn, scary games in VR can be a struggle, so let's see if I actually get through it. I can't remember how much that was. I want to say it wasn't a lot. I want to say it's about 25 quid as well. It was not over 30, that is for certain. So Secret the Mimic, happy with those. And a few digital games as well, what I've been playing lately. Titan Isles. I want to talk a little bit about Titan Isles. I'm really enjoying this game. It's the third game from the team that brought us Windlands. And for anybody who knows, like the first Windlands, when it came out very early in VR's sort of lifespan, quite near the start of, if not, I don't think it was a launch title, but I'm sure it was very close to the start of PSVR1 back in the day. And it really impressed everybody because it had this real free-form movement to it. The locomotion system was just really free-form, gave you so much freedom, and didn't try and reduce the likelihood of you feeling getting motion sickness, which was good for those of us that had or were developing VR legs, because it really gave you that sort of that feeling in your stomach of when you do these really exaggerated high jumps and swinging like Spider-Man from platform to platform. And it's just it was a really unique and impactful and immersive experience, the Windlands 1. And by the time the sequel came, I think we were all a bit more used to VR movement, so it might not have had the same sort of impact in that way. But they obviously expanded on the game. They added lots of enemies, boss battles, multiplayer, and all that stuff. Some people thought, they sort of dumbed down a little bit on the difficulty in terms of the platforming, but I enjoyed Windlands 2 absolutely. And this is basically an expansion on that concept. You've now got 4 different character styles you can pick from that each have different locomotion styles, different weapons, loads and loads of upgrades, so that's fun as well. Would I say roguelite? Kind of roguelitey. You do these levels, you can do them over and over again. I don't think they're procedurally generated though, are they? No, but you go back to base, you can upgrade all of your weapons and gadgets and stuff. And I've had a lot of fun with it. Really, really good. And it made me laugh on a Gamescast, a PSVR Without Parole Gamescast the other day. I left a comment quite early on before the cast started. I said, breaking, Titan Isles is actually brilliant. True story. A little cheeky reference to the fact that Brian has reviewed it and was a bit lukewarm on it. But I've had a lot of fun with Titan Isles. Just the way that I'm still only on the first character. I'm still only using the sort of Spider-Man character with the shooting the webs out to swing from platform to platform. Haven't even tried any of the other 3 characters yet, and I'm just having a blast with it. There are a few issues. There is a little bit of performance issue every now and again. Like what's been happening is, once I've completed a level and gone back to the hub world, sometimes the frame rate goes jittery. Like, it is definitely running at 90 hertz native the vast majority of the time. But then, sometimes if you exit out of a level as well, I've noticed, for me at least, you go back to the hub world and then you do the test and it looks like it's reprojected. It's got that sort of reprojected stutter, which is really weird. So you have to reset the game at that point and just load it again and it's fixed. But yeah, so there's a couple of little issues like that, but they are still patching it. They're still improving this game. So whatever else is left to fix, I'm sure they will. But just the gameplay it's so fun. Like one of my favorite things in VR is just to give you a really sort of a locomotion system that really makes you feel like you got a lot of freedom and control over the movement, and you can really get like really good with it. You know, you can really feel like a sort of an expert web slinger in the way that you manipulate around these a maneuver around these levels. And yeah, the gunplay or the bow play is really fun as well. So I have really been enjoying that one. Wrath, Aeon of Ruin, or is it Eon? I think it's Eon. Wrath, Eon of Ruin is another game that I got recently. Another one from Flat to VR Studios, who are doing God's work out there. Really hyped about the announcement for Flatout 4, and everybody seems to be enjoying that. I cannot wait for that to come to PSVR2. That's going to be insane, like a AAA quality Destruction Derby style VR racer. Amazing. But yeah, Wrath, Eon of Ruin is, if you don't know already, like a sort of retro style, sort of Quake-esque, Doom-esque sort of boomer shooter is what they call them. So it's got that, you know, pixelated look to it, but it runs really smooth, great frame rate, great resolution, fast action, and yeah, it's fun. Huge levels. Oh my god! If you like exploring in your first-person shooters, then you probably enjoy this one. A little bit of strategy, so well, in terms of you know, switches and unlocking areas and things like this. But yeah, that is. I have been enjoying Wrath, Eon of Ruin, absolutely. And Flat to VR, you know, I've been playing quite a few day games lately. One of the other main games I've been playing is Shadowgate. There we go. Shadowgate VR: The Mines of Mythrock. So this is like a puzzle adventure game. You're going through these spooky sort of dungeons, tunnels, underground areas mainly, and yeah, solving puzzles. A lot of them are sort of contextual. So it's you know, they're not just sort of generic puzzles. It's like really making things happen in the area that you're exploring. You know, so there is some combat. It's very basic, but it just adds a little element to it. It is mainly a puzzle game, but it's atmospheric and it's satisfying to get through when you actually solve these puzzles and stuff. So yeah, so Shadowgate, Mines of Mythrock, and of course Flat to VR. We're involved with V-Racer Hoverbike, I believe. Was it? Is that right? But I have been playing that. That's pretty cool. It's basically, if you want a wipeout fix in VR, that's your closest that you're going to get currently on PSVR2. Although there is apparently a wipeout sort of clone coming, Omega Pilot. So yeah, not very subtle with the wipeout references on that game. But V-Racer Hoverbike is really good, really good. Like, again, really high resolution, really high frame rate, fantastic performance. We're seeing this more often now. Great colours, and it's got a track editor now as well. So it's basically infinite content. And I've been playing RoboQuest VR as well. That is definitely another Flat to VR studio game, and they're just knocking them out of the park, like at a ridiculous rate. This is a good business model. I hope that they are succeeding or will succeed in the long term, because this does seem to be the way to do it, really, to try and bring cool games to VR without breaking the bank too much, is add VR modes to games that already exist. And RoboQuest is a really accomplished, really deep roguelike game with that addictive loop of going through the levels and racking up currencies to spend on upgrades and stuff. But yeah, RoboQuest, fantastic, and that multiplayer is coming very soon, apparently. And that's really it. That's what I've been playing. Oh, sorry, how could I forget? Also, Zero Caliber. So Zero Caliber, you know, it was hyped for a long time. It's a bit of an older game now in the VR community. It's already got a sequel out on PC. It's coming to PSVR 2 soon, but we got the first game fairly recently. And although it was hyped a lot sort of a few years back, people don't talk about it that much now. And I'd say don't skip on this game. It's got probably one of the most impressive performances of a VR shooter for me in terms of the draw distance and the clarity. And I am not kidding. It is this is one of the games where it makes me realise that PSVR2 will have legs on the PS6. So, like, you know, obviously, if you carry through this headset onto the next generation of consoles, you might fall behind some of the newer headsets that come out in terms of raw resolution. But in terms of performance overall, you're going to be powered by the PS6. So you're still going to be able to max out all the other variables and get fantastic visuals, even if your base resolution of the headset hardware falls behind on newer headsets as they come out. So, for example, on this game, just to have the dialed in, the maximum resolution, maximum clarity at a really long draw distance with these good textures, makes me realize that if you get that type of performance, but with a more sort of graphically complex game, for example, a Resident Evil, pick your favorite AAA high fidelity modern game, on PS6, you will have unbelievable visuals on the PSVR2 headset without having to commit to a new headset that may have higher resolution, but then you really risk people not having a lower retention rate. So whilst VR is in this sort of transitioning generation, or whilst it's still growing to the point where it has the mass appeal, it might be sensible to sort of try and make these kind of decisions where you're more likely to carry your existing audience through onto the next generation. Do you get me? So all of this is basically, what I'm saying is, Zero Caliber, the performance of it, if you imagine that performance, that crisp visual, nice draw distance, resolution, frame rate, but on a higher fidelity game, that level of performance on PS6 will keep PSVR2 relevant, will keep it impressive, even if it falls behind on raw resolution, which really I think will be the only significant thing that it would fall behind on if it was to continue into PS6. Perhaps form factor, headsets are getting smaller and lighter and more comfortable, but PSVR2 is very, very comfortable. It might be bulky, but it is very comfortable, very light. And there's other conversations around what might happen in future. Of course, some people have a problem with the wire, although I have to sort of acknowledge that the wire is what allows us to have some of the cool features on PSVR2, such as headset vibration, eye tracking, right? So, if you had a wireless headset, how long would the battery last on a headset that's got headset rumble and eye tracking? I mean, I think you would sacrifice those, or you'd have a headset that lasts like half an hour between charges. So for me, the wire doesn't cause much of a problem, and I think it's worth the trade-offs. I think it's worth what you get for it. But yeah, a few other games that I've been I bought a while back that I've not got around to playing yet, because they're following this trend of post-launch patches. And it's just a sign of the times. It's not ideal, of course. We hanker for the simpler days when a game would just be finished before it came out, and then the game that you bought was the game that it's going to be forever, because they finished it to the best that they could before they released it. The good old days. That's no longer how things work usually. Probably as a consequence of shifting into this sort of digital only or digital dominated gaming market, where developers have the freedom to put a game out when their budget says they have to, and then later on try and patch it and make it better. But as we know, that's very hard to recover from. A broken launch is very difficult to recover from, because at your launch is when you're going to get the most coverage, the most hype, the most reviews, the most videos, the most everything. And if your launch day, launch week is bad, has bugs, has issues, the game's not finished, blah, 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 it's difficult to recover from. Just ask Mighty Eyes. who created Wanderer, a fantastic game, one of the top tier VR experiences, beautiful graphics, and yet the launch for the remastered version, the reworked version rather, remade version, had some significant issues, and a lot of the reviews, you know, were mid despite the caliber of this game. They've been patching, they've fixed most of those issues, but who talks about it after the fact, you know? So anyway, yeah, a couple of games that have had similar trajectories, although perhaps not to the same degree. One was Thief, Legacy of Shadows. They've done a lot of work to that. They've improved certain aspects of it, performance and otherwise. But I'm very excited to get into that. I played 5 minutes just to check it out. It looks pretty cool. And the other one is Reach, which a lot of people ragged on at launch. They've done some work to that, some significant patches, and they're not finished yet. So again, I'm just putting them on the back burner till they're finished, which is, you know, it's not ideal, is it? It's not what you want, but it's just how things are these days. So they're on the back burner waiting until they're sort of at their peak, and then I'll get into those games. But guys, that's just a little update on what I've been playing recently on PSVR2. And yeah, not made a video for a while, although I'm creeping up on 2K followers, because I think I did like a top 50 video a while back that did quite well, so I've got some new followers from that. So hello if you came from, started following from the PSVR top 30 games, wherever it was. But yeah, I'm coming up on 2K followers. It's a long time coming. At that point, I will do a Q&A and probably a giveaway. I've said it now, so I'm going to have to. So stay tuned and think of some questions. Maybe I'll put a video out, and then you can put questions for the Q&A 2K followers video. And that's it for now. All right, guys. I'll see you later on. Bye bye.